All right, before we dive in today, I need to share with you a quick disclaimer. My guest, Angelo, he is an awesome guy. He's an entrepreneur, he is a visionary, and we're going to be talking about some really cool aspects of health. But I need to make sure I highlight for you that Angelo is not a medical doctor. Everything he's going to be sharing with us today is based on his personal experience and the experiences of his clients, and I am one of those clients as well. This interview is for informational and inspirational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice. Please make sure you consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any decisions regarding your health or recovery. Angelo, welcome to my expert interview series. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have been waiting so long to have you on my expert interview series because you are my favorite kind of entrepreneur. You are the entrepreneur who absolutely loves what you do. You are super passionate about everything. And it has been such a pleasure to work alongside you the last couple of years and to see your vision, to see you grow, to see your business grow. Welcome to my expert interview series.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I've learned so much from you. This relationship, this partnership that we've had over the past couple year or so is unbelievable. So thank you so much.
I'm so honored that you were able to make time to be here with us because I know you're a really busy guy. And for those of you who are not familiar or have not heard of Angelo, Angelo is the founder, co-founder, and owner of CryoStrong Toronto, and he has a recovery and wellness center where, if you are looking for help recovering from an injury, if you are on a health journey, whether it's a mental health or a physical health journey, Angelo has all kinds of treatments and modalities that offer alternatives to sort of the traditional Western medicine type approach. We're going to talk a little bit about Angelo's journey, how he ended up here with this health and wellness center. And we're going to talk about why this is such a big vision and why it's so important for him and his beautiful wife, Angela, who is his founder and his partner in this entrepreneurship journey. And his kids are involved as well. So it is truly a family business. Let's go back a little bit, and I'm going to fill everyone in on why Angelo has become such an important person in my life. In 2021, I had surgery on my feet. It was supposed to take me 6 weeks to recover. It took me 6 months to recover. And then in 2022, as some of you already know, I unexpectedly had two surgeries, both of which were of the emergency type. And that knocked me back. That set me back tremendously. I basically had a year virtually where I was completely sedentary. I gained weight. There was an impact on my mental health. I wasn't able to work as much as I wanted to. I wasn't able to do the things. And for any of you who've been on a health journey, you know that typically there's a feeling of betrayal that comes where you feel like your body has betrayed you. You go, I am X age, and it doesn't matter what that age is because you always feel it, that I am X age and my body has betrayed me and let me down, and I don't know how to fix this. And a lot of what I was dealing with wasn't something that Western medicine could help with. Recovering from surgery, there's not a lot in Western medicine that says, hey, when you're recovering from surgery, you go and you do these things, and this is what's going to help you get better beyond maybe physiotherapy. So I started my health journey because I wanted to become even better than I was. My goal is to age in reverse. And that led my friend Rachel Oliver to introducing me to Angelo and Anna. And their company is called CryoStrong Toronto. And they have all of these cool treatments and modalities. Every time I turn around, they've added something new, they've upgraded something somewhere. And their vision is to help us reclaim our health, to help us age in reverse. And I think that's such a really cool and powerful story. And beyond that, Angelo and I really connected on the entrepreneurship journey because it is one thing to have your own business and to be dedicated to helping other people. It is another thing entirely to be as invested and as committed to your clients as Angelo and Anna are. So let's go right back to the very beginning, Angelo, and let's talk about and you and I, we can go on forever. We can talk about a ton of things. So, can you tell me in like 1 or 2 minutes or less what led you to found and to start CryoStrong? What was the inspiration that had you starting this wonderful place to help people with their health and recovery?
For sure. It's funny. I kind of always look at you were either running away from pain or running towards pleasure. And
Oh, so true.
in my case, it was pain that got me to come up with this and go in this direction. So real quick, I had a couple catastrophic injuries in 2020, 2021. I found out that I had a 5 millimeter fracture, then a 10 millimeter fracture about a year later. Um, to not go into too much into the details, it was I couldn't walk. I didn't know if I was going to walk again. It took me about 2 weeks before I could even have any feelings in my legs, and then I found out I had all these other problems going on in my body, which stem from a lot of toxins that I injected from the accident, um, nerve damage, and so on. And I just had no solution other than surgery and medication. Medication mostly for the pain. And it was just something that I've always had injuries and I've come back to it, but this was something I knew right when it happened. Not only I didn't have a good chance of coming back, my whole life was going to change. And it happened at a pivotal time in my life. I was just about to turn 50. Everything before that, I was defying all the odds. I remember not even a year before that, I took my daughter to Wonderland. I tread water for 8 hours straight without touching the bottom. I mean, I just kept on breaking records and showing people that, like you said, age in reversal. There's no stopping me. And then these accidents happened and my whole life changed and my identity changed. I changed from I'm the superhuman person that can do anything to now I don't know what to do. I'm lost. I'm depressed. I'm having serious anxiety and PTSD and not seeing any type of compelling future. And I started going inwards um, in a very negative way. And these accidents, as bad as they were kind of the best thing that ever happened to me now. Now, for me to say that at that time, I would never say that. But just like anything in our life, when enough time goes by and you find the answers, these things, one of the most famous sayings is our problems are gifts. Like life is happening for us, not to us. It didn't look like that. My faith was completely shattered. I had no belief in any type of faith. I was blaming everybody else, including my family. I didn't want to do anything. And my pain was so bad that it got to the point I couldn't handle another day like this. I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't move or walk. And all my work that I used to do before, I couldn't do before. So because of that, I started kind of expanding my mind, started reading and looking at different ways to have me get better and heal. And one of the things that I came across was modalities such as cryotherapy, PMF, and red light. And it stuck to me because I didn't want to go the surgery route. I didn't want to go to the medication route. And as much as I researched about it, none of it was an answer. All of it was a band-aid. All of it was addressing the symptoms, not the cause, which is what most of disease now is being kind of looked at right now. You have high blood pressure, they give you medication. Don't get me wrong, you need to take the medication to bring your blood pressure, but the goal is for you to bring down your blood pressure or the disease or the inflammation on your own eventually. The goal should not be to be on this type of medication or have to do these surgeries consistently, which was my future and outlook from everyone that I spoke to. So when I discovered this, I could not believe the results that I was getting. I could not believe um, how quickly I was getting better and getting better in a different way. Everything was changing. My mindset was changing on what was possible. And when it happened, the first thing that I could think of is I have to let people know. I would tell every family and friend about what I've kind of experienced and learned with regards to healing. But then it got to the point I had a business. I'm a pedorthist. I've been helping people with orthopedic side for almost 20 years now. And there's only so much I can do. There's only so many tools I have. I had the orthotics, I had compression socks, I had braces, which all have a huge impact and help you. Everything's about your feet and movement. But I would deal with customers that had other issues as well. And until this happened to me, I never had the foresight of what is possible.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna try and recapture all of that. So here's Angelo, super dad extraordinaire, has his own business, already helping people, and you were super fit, worked out all the time, MMA fighter. Like your workout routine now is insane. I can't imagine what it was before you had your injuries. And then in 2020, you break your back once. 2021, you break your back a second time. This is a catastrophic injury. This is you in a room inhaling chemicals, stage 5 concussion. Like, this is catastrophic. Can't feel my legs, can't move my legs for 2 weeks afterwards, time in the hospital. And you coming back looking around at the same time, this is all while COVID is going on too. So imagine all the rest of us are like living COVID, and then Angelo just has to take it to that next level of like challenge. And you brought in these modalities, these treatments into your business as a way to help people benefit from what you had already learned and discovered on your health journey. Is that correct?
Correct. Dead on.
That's awesome. So, talk to me a little bit about mentally. Like, you mentioned depression and PTSD, and I think for a lot of us as entrepreneurs, there are moments where we definitely experience that, especially when we're experiencing significant setbacks. So it might be a financial setback. There's a lot of people in the last couple of years, whether you're a real estate investor or, a general entrepreneur, and we have had setbacks. We have had financial challenges. I mean, even at the beginning of COVID, going as far back as 5 years, there was a reason why the government rolled out a lot of supports for businesses, because we were all sitting there going, I don't know what just happened here, but my business is not what it was. And I had no contingency plan for this. I hadn't predicted this. So, can you talk us through a little bit about how your physical and mental recovery on the personal side might be beneficial for someone to hear on the entrepreneurial side?
For sure. That's a good point with COVID. One of the things with all my injuries, it was during COVID. So we were actually shut down. We had no income. We couldn't allow customers to walk into our clinic at that time. And it took almost 2 years before we even came anywhere close to where we were before. So financially, we had no options. We had, we were locked down. And then these injuries happen. Um, and then even after that, my father passed away. So I just had one after the other. And as I was trying to get better with one, another one would happen. And I was beat up. And I had a traumatic brain injury. So that was very difficult because I was doing and thinking things that were not my personality. I'm an only child. I never had any type of PTSD or anxiety, and I got that after these accidents, and then maybe overwhelming with everything that was going on. Um, I say this all the time is, sometimes our biggest problems are our biggest gifts, and we just don't see it at the time. So as entrepreneurs, we're just looking at what's happening now. We might be going through imposter syndrome. We might be saying, this is not for us. And you just got to learn that this is just a part of life. This is happening to make you stronger and be able to provide your customer what they need. A lot of times people will come in for what they want, and then I will give them what they need. So
Mm, that's beautiful.
it's unbelievable some of the things that I've seen with some of these modalities. But because of these injuries, I went into a completely different direction, which was cryotherapy, pulse electric, magnetic therapy, and red light and infrared. And the way it changed me, the way it healed me, specifically mostly in the mind as well, not only just the body, it got me out of the victim mindset and got back to the victor mindset. So one of the biggest things as entrepreneurs, we have to be careful that we don't stay as the victim. It's
Yeah.
and I'm not by any means saying what you're going through is not fair, is not difficult. I completely understand that. And that's not the point. The point is, as long as we stay in that victim mentality, we can never find the answers. We have to get out of it. So, regardless of what you're going through, one of the first things I say is it's always mindset. As bad as it is and as unfair it was, like COVID, we didn't do anything wrong. They shut us down. We had no answers for that. We couldn't even bring people in. But once you get to past the victim and you go, what am I going to do? You have to focus on what you can do, not what's happened to you. So, cryotherapy and these modalities helped me because I had this traumatic injury, but it got me my mindset to change and start having more of a compelling future and just getting into the place where I need to find the answers here. I can't sit here and just sulk and complain and say it's not fair.
Mm. You said something one time when I was talking to you, and it's really stuck with me. And you said, pain is real, but suffering is a choice.
I learned that. I
Tell me
learned
more about that.
learned that the hard way. Suffering is a choice. It's your mindset. You're choosing to focus. Your reality is what you focus on, and then what you focus on, the meaning you give it. So again, I want to stress that by no means am I saying whatever you're going through is not difficult and it's not painful, but it is a choice what you focus on. When my father passed away was kind of the first light bulb for me. It was very hard for me. I remember at the funeral, I would cry so hard I would have convulsions and I'd have to leave every 5, 10 minutes, and people would come and grab me and bring me back. And I couldn't breathe. And I was sitting there and people would be walking by my father's casket. And I'll never forget, as terrible as I was and I was feeling, after about 10, 15 minutes, we went to the back room and people started talking about something else and we were laughing and joking. And I know anybody that's gone to a funeral has probably experienced this. So I had the most devastating, my body was actually having convulsions, yet not even 10 minutes later, I was laughing. So that was a choice. And I was, but I chose to focus on something different. I was focusing on, what just happened with my father and the pain that he went through. But right when we shifted and we started talking about some of the funny things that he did, my convulsions went away. We started laughing. I almost started feeling guilty for laughing. But it taught me that you can change in a second. It's just a moment. Any moment in your life you can change. So that's where I say suffering is a choice. Pain, on the other hand, is not a choice, and that's a difficult one. That's what I was dealing with. That's where you have to do things to try to solve that. But my analogy from pain and suffering kind of came and started from that, and then I just started digging deep into that and noticing that every time I started looking at suffering as a choice, I would get out of it.
Yeah. Interesting. And I think you were almost placed in a situation. I mean, the only options you had with Western medicine were a surgery that had a very low success rate and very low return on the investment and would require repeated surgeries, and pain medication, which, I think most of us these days are a little bit nervous around taking, high prolonged doses of pain medication. So you really had to have the mental resilience to say there has to be something else out there, and you tried a ton of things on your healing journey, didn't you? You tried like a ton of different modalities. Um, One of the things I admire the most about you is your integrity and your transparency. Like, you don't always share with everyone about the journey that you've been on, especially the mental health, because there's still a lot of stigma out there about mental health. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the different ways that um, you have found that you can help people through your business and the integrity behind your business?
For sure. When I was coming up with these modalities, like you said, I want to stress that it's never a straight line. Every time I tried something, sometimes I would feel good for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month, and then I would go back. But one of the things when I look back is how I found this is I never quit. So I kind of like the analogy as you never ever lose until you quit. So as long you can fall down over and over again, as long as you keep getting up, you will find the answer. So a lot of times when people come to me, one of the first things I hear, and I said this all the time, was I've tried everything.
Okay.
And I've said that. And I would like intentionally kind of dig into the people that would say that to me and say, you've tried everything. Let me, explain to me what you've done. And they'll say, I've done 100 things. And I would be like, oh, 100 things. Then can you list some? And they're like, get uncomfortable. And they would go, I've done 50. And then I go, okay, perfect. List them. And then you find out it was maybe 10 things. And then you find out it was maybe three. And then when I dig down on those, you find out that they didn't even follow those through to the right degree. So one of the things that helped me is no matter how many potholes I went into, I just kept on pivoting. So if this didn't work, I kept on pivoting. As long as you keep changing your approach, eventually you will get there. I truly, truly believe that because I know if you don't quit, you will get there. And unfortunately, we just quit too early or we just allow things in the mind to take over and say, this is not going to work. So, this is one of the tools that got me there because we have chemicals in our body that can make us feel good. The example I said with my father, I mean, I had chemicals in my body that were coming out, dopamine and serotonin, that changed my actual physiology from going into convulsions and not being able to breathe and have to step out to instantly start smiling and laughing and completely was not in the same phase whatsoever. So that was another kind of light bulb moment. Oh my God, how is this possible? And then when I found out that the body wants to do this, the body wants to release these chemicals. And here's a great way to do that, right? With cryotherapy, with pulse electric magnetic therapy. And it healed me and it got me better. The first thing I had to do was to bring this into the clinic.
I love that. So you were already serving people, and now you just found a new way to serve people. Um, One of the things that I talk about a lot with my clients is when we are struggling, we tend to get in a mindset and we almost give ourselves permission to wallow. And if we want to give ourselves permission to wallow, I think, when we're grieving and when we're dealing with things, then we need to have that moment to kind of acknowledge where we are and what we're struggling with. But where most people struggle is shifting out of that into that view that, okay, if this is not happening to me, if this is happening for me, then how do I start to move past that? And one of my favorite suggestions for my clients is I either suggest music or movement. So you get outside, you go put your feet on the ground, you listen to music, you dance, you these two things are really powerful to start the transition process into developing that more resilient mindset. What insights do you have? Because you sound like you have, and from having talked to you, I know that you have this like supercharged, resilient mindset that you're not a quitter. You don't give up. You're like, okay, here's a new challenge. Now I need to figure out a new solution or a new way around it. How do you, what can you share with others that would help them develop that resilient mindset as well? Other entrepreneurs and business owners.
I want to be really clear that it took a lot of time, right? I think one of the things is I kept on feeding my mind. I kept on looking for answers. I kept on reading. I stopped watching movies and TV. I started, watching every podcast, every book that I could read about mindset and healing the body. So I think the first step is you just gotta put yourself out there and you just gotta continually feed your mind to find the answers because you're not going to find it. It's not going to come to you if you don't go after it.
Yeah.
But what you said about physiology is, I started reading about that. And, there's studies that if you stand in a Superman or Wonder Woman pose with your hands on the side,
Mhm.
they've done tests and you release 25% more testosterone and decrease cortisol at the same time, and increase the chances of taking more of a risk and doing something that you would normally do just with something by putting your hands there. So imagine doing something that what you're saying is we're walking around or dancing, or some people even pound their chest. I know it sounds really kind of, woohoo, but there's actual physical studies where they put machines on people, they take their saliva, they test their blood, and you're increasing all these chemicals with something so small. So imagine if you do more things like exercising in the morning to get your day started. So these were things that I were doing before, but I had to change my approach and find different ways because I would have lulls through the day. I would have times in the day that, I'm ready to go and we all have that. And then something happens at work or something happens with a family member and you get pushed back.
Mhm.
Where I go back again, it's, you can't, I would start to even anticipate. I would say, these things are going to happen. How am I going to react? But the mistake we make is we expect our problems to not have problems. And that's just not the reality, right? And I do it
Yeah.
all the time. I still do it to this day. And I've trained myself to say, I actually say it out loud. I write it down. My problems are gifts, and it's my responsibility to find what that gift is. So when something really bad happens to me, I've trained myself. My first reaction, I also have a 90-second rule where I'll allow myself to stay in the victim mode for 90 seconds. 90 seconds. And then it's like, Angelo, you're not going to get anywhere staying like this. It's not fair, but we got to move. So 90 seconds is what I do. And then I start looking for answers. And it's hard. But again, physiology is the quickest way to get you out there. Just moving, just putting your hands, just standing up. Even when you're sitting down, you're losing 50% of your energy just sitting down. Just standing up and moving around. As simple as that sounds, can help you get out of those times where you have those bad times. So I started really understanding the science behind it, and started implementing it. And just slowly. I mean, I think one of the biggest mistakes we make, exercise is a perfect example. We just make it too big, and the mind doesn't want something difficult. So small steps. Like I tell people, a lot of people ask me, what kind of diet are you on? What kind of exercise? And I always say, just move a little bit more and eat a little bit less. Start like that. Get the motivation going because you can't manufacture motivation. You have to create it. And then once you start getting it, I love the analogy when you push a car, it's really hard at the beginning. But once it starts moving, it's easy. So I actually,
Mhm.
when I start things start working, I actually fear it's stopping. So I actually recognize, okay, I have some motivation things are working right now. I have to do everything in my power to keep it moving because I don't want to stop and have to go through that lump again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sort of the whole momentum is better than motivation. Once you
Mhm.
have momentum, it's easier to keep things going than it is to start it from stasis.
Yeah, I mean, I use motivation. It's a tool, but it's
Yeah.
not the most powerful tool. And it's not going to get you out of bed in the morning when you've had a really bad day. It might do it once, but to do something consistently, you need to change your mindset and you need to really feed your mind, understand your, everybody has a different, has a go-to reaction or emotion when something happens. You need to recognize it and catch yourself and don't beat yourself up. You have to say, this is going to take time and don't measure yourself. One of the greatest things I've started doing just recently is I call it measuring backwards. Always measure backwards. Even now, no matter how successful I am, and a lot of entrepreneurs do this, anybody that's a high achiever, we always say, oh, if I only get this amount of money or this amount of business, I'll be happy. And what happens when we get there? We're usually not happy for more than a day or two. So, or we don't even recognize that we've done it. And now I've recognized that, with my injuries, I remember I was getting better and better, but I was still beating myself up. I'm still not able to walk properly. I still can't do what I used to do. And then once I started measuring backwards, I started saying, well, you know, 5 months ago, I was in a wheelchair and I was walking with a walker. Now I'm moving, but now I'm moving, but I'm not moving like I used to. But that's a huge jump from there. And when you start looking at it that way, you get those kind of emotions of like, success. And you know what? I did something here. But every time I started looking ahead, measuring forward, I haven't got where I wanted to get, which is perfect for, entrepreneurs. It would hold me back. It would just make I would get a flood of emotions of I'm not, imposter syndrome would come in. I'm not worthy. I haven't done enough. But every time I just look backwards, what I've done, it would get me that momentum okay, I have gotten better.
Yeah. I love that. And what you actually brought up for me was that one of the things that steals our joy the most is comparison. And social media has us comparing ourselves to other people every day. And if the only person we're comparing ourselves to is ourselves, then it's much easier to see the progress that we've made. It's much easier to have reasonable and realistic goals and to measure our progress than it is if we're measuring ourselves against somebody's shiny video that they put up that's 2 seconds or 2 minutes or 3 minutes long and is not an accurate reflection of their day-to-day life and what goes on at home behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's terrible. We measure ourselves for things in social media that aren't even real.
Yeah.
They're not even, we see all these people saying all these things they've done and they haven't done any of it, right? I mean, it's the biggest mistake you can make. You have to go inward. You have to look at, and your journey is different from someone else's. So yes, you have to stop comparing yourself is one of the fundamental things you have to do.
Absolutely, I love that. um you have been an entrepreneur for 20 years, but before that you were an employee. How did you know that you needed to become an entrepreneur? What were the signs for you that were like, you know what, this is not what I want to do for the next 30 years of my life?
It's kind of funny. My father had restaurant and bar business, so I kind of had a little of the taste of the entrepreneur, but he was the leader. I was still his partner towards the end in my early 20s, but we had a lot of friction because it was family and he wanted to go a certain direction and I wanted to go one. But when we came to a compromise, the business started to grow. And then unfortunately, he made some bad moves and he bankrupted the business because he took some risks that I didn't agree with. And I had to go to a completely different route. And I went into the corporate route. And I just started actually as like an operator on the phone, believe it or not, just answering the phones. And I quickly moved up and I became a team lead and a manager. And one of the companies that I worked with, we would have this, it was called personal business commitment. And we would get, I was in charge of about 25 people. And they would have to, at the end of the year, for my personal business commitment, actually write up about how my leadership skills were. And at the end, they would have to say something that was not necessarily negative. It can't be positive. It has to be something to where he can improve.
It's
And I remember
instructive.
reading all that, what they would say, and you could see it was difficult for them because I would do everything because I was in the restaurant and bar business, it was always about the customer. I did that in the corporate world, and it wasn't very at that time in the late 90s and early 2000s, it wasn't like that. It was, everybody just had a set of strategies and we had to follow them. You weren't allowed. And I remember when I would leave, I would pat someone always on their back and say goodbye. I would ask them about their day, things that nobody ever did, and they would write that. And I think that's when I started getting the bug that I need to, do something again and start a business. And I was always into health. I loved, how you can change your body and your mind just by working out. Instilled that with my kids and everybody I spoke to. And I had a friend that was in the pedorthic business, and I was fascinated about, everything's about your feet and movement. And if you're not moving properly, you can't do any of the things that I like to do. So that's how I kind of started going in. I had to changed my education. I got my pedorthic license, and then I think it was in 2005, I started the first clinic with just orthotics and orthopedic clinic.
Wow, that's amazing. So what's your vision now for your business? Because now you have the whole you do the compression socks and the orthotics and the braces, that's kind of on one side. And then on the other side you have cryotherapy, you have red light therapy, PEMF, you have um electromagnetic body sculpting, you have compression therapy, which is hands down one of my absolute favorite treatments that you have. Plus, you have a whole bunch of other things. You have vibration and so what do you think is next? Like, how do you decide what the next thing looks like for your business?
I think the one of the things I at the beginning that got me stuck was um, that the same thing is not for everybody. That in order for me my goal is to give you the best results as quickly as possible. Now,
Mhm.
I've learned that there's no guarantee for success. You can do everything right and still not have any success. But there are certain fundamentals that if you break them, you will have failure. You will have disease if you do this. If you do this in a relationship, you will not have a healthy relationship. So I started just focusing on stacking the good, stacking the um, things that you can do that can help to get you there faster. Again, it's not a guarantee, but when you stack, you have more of a probability of getting where you want to get. So that's why we keep adding things. So there's people that come to me that only do cryotherapy, and I will talk to them about the other modalities. And some of them will take it, some of them will not. And I don't push on that. I understand that. Some people are, I've had a lady that she's allowed me to speak about it, and you've met her, Cynthia. So I have her actual blood work. She had bone cancer, and she has a disease. It's called MGUS, and she releases a protein from her bone marrow that causes cancer. There's no protocol. There's no cure. Basically, it's when we're just waiting for you to get certain types of cancer and it'll spread. And then we just kind of do the Western medicine where we just throw everything at the table, which is chemo and surgery and medication. And she came to me in 2023 in August. Um, and all she does is PMF. And so she gave me her blood work, and I actually have it in my office. I have it up on the wall, and I have her August 2023 blood work and November 2024, which is not too long ago. She brought me her blood work, and her hematologist says she has no traces of it. She's completely free of this, and she's been coming to me for almost 2 years now. So um, I was always telling her to do other things. She never did it, but it worked for her. Just recently, now she added red light after 2 years.
Mhm.
And now she's at another level now. So, one of the things you have to be careful is people aren't ready to change. You can't change people until they're ready to change. And one of the things when people used to come into my door, I would hit them so hard. You got to try this. You got to do this. And it was from my heart. I just wanted to help. I wanted them to see results. And I've learned to step back, kind of read them, just kind of, I'll give them all the information and let them decide. You can't push anybody, but you can influence them. So that's where I kind of work now. I'm just going to throw everything out. I never give any type of medical claims ever. I just give testimonials. And one of the first ones is the ones what it's done for me, my family members, and then I start with even some of my clients.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that's really important for people to understand is that nobody's journey is the same. So whether it's a journey on and health and recovery, whether it's a journey for weight loss, whether it's a journey for entrepreneurship and building a business, no two people are going to have the same journey. And it's important to pay attention to the signs and pick and choose the things that are right for you. So if having a service-based business is something that's right for you, then that's great. Go in that direction. If you're someone who has no interest in customer service and would rather be, coding and doing stuff behind a computer and not worry about customer service, then do that. It's important that you find something that you're passionate about, something that you believe in, something that resonates with you, and then ideally something that's going to build on skills that you already have, in knowledge and information that you already have, and you can supplement it with new or additional information. I feel like sometimes in this world, we're looking for these finite answers, and there just aren't any. Like, I was having a conversation with my sister the other day about weight loss, and I said, I don't think we have weight loss figured out because I think if we did, then if people were overweight, we would say, do this, this, and this. They would lose the weight, and then they would never gain weight again. And we'd have an entire population outside of medication who are, healthy and thin and active, but we're really just trying to figure it out. So if you try something and it doesn't work for you, then you have to keep trying. You have to look for what's next in the pursuit of your goal overall. It's that way no matter what you're doing, no matter what area you're in, no matter what aspect of your life you're looking to improve, you have to look for the signs, and then you have to maintain that curiosity, that desire to keep looking for what is the next thing for you.
I'm so glad you brought it into that with weight loss because that's a perfect example. I was just reading this study now that, and it's for Americans, but 2/3 of Americans are overweight right now. The
Mm.
highest population growing right now, the fastest one, is over 100 pounds. 100 pounds. And I started reading about this and learning about all the different, there's so many diets out there. I've been plant-based, I've been vegan, I've gone carnivore, I've gone Mediterranean. And that goes back to your basis. There's no one diet for everybody. You have to try different things and see what works for you. People's gut has a different reaction. You could be eating healthy foods and having a tremendous effect on your issues with your body as well. But when I started thinking about that, 100 pounds overweight is the fastest growing population right now, and we're 2/3 overweight. And you go back in history, has anything changed? Like, is there any type of secret? I was thinking about this. Um, is there some secret that only the super rich know about losing weight? It's not. Nothing's changed over the years. We all know what we do. So everything has to do with mindset. That's why even when you come here, I start with your mindset because you can have the right strategy, you can have the right approach. If you don't have the right mindset, you can't implement it. I love the saying, if you want to see a sunset and you're running east, I don't care how hard you run, you're never going to see that. So there's plenty of people. I know people that have three, four jobs and can't make a living. They just got the
Mhm.
wrong strategy. They got the wrong mindset. So everything has to do with mindset. And I have to remind myself all the time, even when I get, these obstacles, it's always my mindset that stops me from getting forward. So back to the exercise. I mean, we all know we have to exercise a little bit more and eat a little bit less. And yet, why don't we do it? Anybody that's worked out usually knows that you can work out for a month straight and see absolutely no results. Some people 2 months and see no results. Usually after 3 months, you might start seeing that little vein and start seeing a little bit of abs. But what happens? Most people after a week, 2 weeks, a month, this is not working. I'm going to give up. And that's the mindset. That's
Mhm.
where, Tom Brady says it all the time. I beat everybody because I'm consistent. If you're going to do something, I say be consistent. And there's times to change the approach. Sometimes, there's other people that do some things that are for way too long and it's not working. But I think we live in this Amazon Prime world where we expect things tomorrow. We order something and it's there. And we live around that. Like, you want to Google something. I was talking to my daughter, I was laughing about it, when I wanted to know how far the sun was when I was a kid, I'd have to ride my bike to the library, go to the letter S. Hopefully the book is there for the sun, and then find out how far it was. Where now my
Yeah.
daughter, whatever she can think of, she doesn't even have to type it. She just goes, Siri, how far is the sun? So
Yeah.
we're built like that. And we think health and finances and relationship is like that, and it's not like that. It's you got to work on it. You have to have the right strategy. But even if you have the right strategy, which we and we there's so many strategies and they all work to a certain degree depending on the person, but we don't implement because of the mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. So, can you share with us one thing that you do every day that improves your mindset?
Reading. I think reading. I mean,
Mm.
everybody says that saying, leaders are readers. You have to read every day, right?
Yeah, it's that new information coming in. It's the you challenge your existing beliefs and what's the word I'm looking for? Like your underlying system, your limiting beliefs. If you have new information coming in, then you're challenging all of that and you're looking for new solutions, new ideas.
Yeah, and there's so many like some people love reading books. I love Audible. My daughter, she can't do Audible. She has to read books and stuff like that. But I love with that. I can do it in my car. I can do it while I'm working out. So it doesn't even. So I look for first of all, I look for things that don't interfere or slow me down with the work that I have to do. And there's lots of. So I think they call it University on Wheels. So I remember my clinic used to be a lot further, and it used to be a half an hour to 45 minutes drive there and back. So I would get at least a minimum every day of an hour and a half of reading.
Mhm,
And then I would do when I get up in the morning and I do my morning routine. I think that's a big one. You have to have a morning routine and a nighttime routine. More
mhm.
so the nighttime. I think I always had the morning routine, but one of the things I've gotten good now, we have an alarm clock to wake up. I actually have an alarm clock to remind myself to go to bed. And one of the things people say to me all the time, I remember one person was telling me, don't you find that you don't have any freedom because you have to work out all the time? You have to prepare your food. You have to do all these things at a certain time. And I would hear that my whole life and I would still do it. And then it finally clicked. I actually have more freedom by doing these things.
Mhm.
And people have just turned it, again, that running away from pain or running towards pleasure. Like people that work out and work out consistently have made it pleasurable. I don't love working out. Like if I had a choice, I would never pick up a weight. I would never run. I would never do anything. I don't think there's anybody who that. But I've trained my mind. I see the benefits, and anyone who has successful has made it pleasure. Like I see the benefits. But the people that don't do it see it as pain. Oh my God, I have to get up in the morning. I have to prepare my food. I can't eat this kind of things that I do. And you still can, by the way. There's ways around that. That's just, again, the mindset. You see even people when they start something, they say, well, I got to get the right running shoes and I got to find the right gym. And I'm like, just go outside and run. Like, you're
Start.
making so complicated. Just
Yeah.
do something. I think action is the biggest word that massive action. That's one of the things I've learned that will get you to wherever you want. The biggest mistake we make is I hate the word I know. And I hear it all the time. When I have conversations, it actually, I feel it, look, my hands, it actually gets goosebumps because we all know what to do, but we're not doing it. So you have to do, not know.
Yeah, I love that. And my coach actually, I remember years ago, he said to me, he goes, "Knowing and not doing is the same thing as not knowing, except it just makes you feel worse, right? You're like, oh, I know I should be doing this, and then you beat yourself up and you feel like crap because you're not actually doing it." And I think you're right, where we take something like, starting a workout journey and we make it complicated because it becomes permission for us not to have to do anything.
That's the
Yeah, oh,
mind.
I need the right footwear, I need this, I need that. I think we have to stop giving our mind as much power and as much credit as we do, and recognize, like you said, that our mind wants us to stay comfortable. Our mind wants us to continue doing the least amount of putting in the least amount of effort, the least amount of calories expended, all these other things. And then we need to, our job as humans, if we want to build a fulfilling life and to leave a legacy behind, is to challenge that consistently every single day from the moment we wake up until we go to bed.
Yeah, where I work out in my garage now, and I have a sign on top, and it says, it reminds me all the time. It's David Goggins, it's his verbiage, and he's big on this. But right when I get comfortable, I know that I'm gonna have a problem. So you have to learn to be uncomfortable. You have to learn that. You have to understand that no muscle grows without discomfort. You're not going to get smarter without putting in reading a lot and actually doing the things you want to do. You're not going to have a better relationship without any work. So I always go back to that Amazon Prime. We're built, especially now, and especially the kids now. that have never even seen that type of lifestyle. They were like, I was with my nephew and niece, and I remember when they were a baby, they were sitting on my lap, maybe 1 years old, and I had my iWatch, and they were going like this. They knew how to do everything, and they couldn't even speak. So we're trained like that. Like it was, and
Yeah,
I remember that when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, forget the iPad. They know how to do that. But I'm saying on my watch, she knew how to, how small the actual apps are. She was clicking on
yeah.
it and moving things around better than I do. And she's less than 1 years old. So we have to be careful. Nothing's going to happen if we don't go after it.
Yep, I love that. And I think, Angelo, that is a fantastic place to wrap up. I think that's a fantastic message to leave people with. And I will make sure to share your contact information if you're in the Toronto area and you want to connect with Angelo to talk about mindset or to talk about your health journey or to give any of his modalities a try, then by all means reach out to Angelo. And I'm in there quite often. So if you ever want to meet up and talk about real estate or entrepreneurship and grab a couple of treatments with me, I would absolutely love to see you there. So reach out to Angelo and I at the contact information below. Thank you so much for joining me for another expert interview. Angelo, I appreciate you so much, your integrity, your knowledge, and you are awesome. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. I really want to stress how our relationship just over the years, we've kind of helped each other learn, and we just kind of piggyback on each other and just you need somebody, you need an accountable person to be able to move forward. You can't do this by yourself. Nobody's successful on their own. You have to reach out to people, and you just have to find the right people. But when you do, you just skyrocket to where you want to go.
Love that. That's a great message too. Thank you, Angelo. Thank you to all of you for watching us and have a great week. We'll see you again soon.